Hello student, welcome to IIEBM's Marketing Foundation course. I am Professor Jayant and over the course of the next few lectures, including this one, I'll be taking you through what is known as the Marketing Foundation course. We will be navigating through some of the basic concepts of marketing and the foundation that you would get as part of this particular course would stand you in good stead as far as your entire MBA curriculum is concerned. So, in general, marketing can be considered as a very essential business activity, something that is integral to the success of the business as a whole. So, over the next few sessions, I would be taking you through some of the basic overview or the basic concepts in marketing, including what is marketing, which we are going to discuss today. Then we'll be talking about evolution of marketing over the years. Okay, so what are the various philosophies that marketing as a subject has, adopted, and what is the current philosophy that marketers tend to adopt? We'll be looking at the various functions of marketing. What exactly is involved in the activity of marketing? We will also be looking at what are the various careers that you can look forward to in the field of marketing. So once the overview is being taken care of, then we will get into some of the tools that are adopted by marketeers in order to practice their craft. Okay. So we'll be looking at certain basic tools like for environmental analysis, we have something called as a pestle analysis. We'll be talking about that. We'll briefly talk about what a product is. We'll talk about what a how to understand the customer, whether it is segmenting the customer, whether it is targeting the customer, whether it is positioning the customer. We'll be talking about certain product analysis tools like BCG matrix. We'll be talking about certain uh, framework for understanding various aspects of marketing, namely the Porter's five forces model, and so on and so forth. So the intention is to give you a very solid foundation so that when you actually go through your semester course, you would get a much better appreciation of the whole thing. Okay. So without much ado, let's begin with our first part of today's discussion, that is what marketing is. In fact, over the course of the next 1.5 hours, we will be exploring certain basic aspects of what marketing as a discipline is all about. Now, once the term marketing is defined, or once the term marketing is announced, a lot of various ideas come to your mind. So for most of you, marketing would be akin to possibly selling. So many of you would feel that marketing and selling are synonymous. We will look at the distinguishing factor between marketing and selling. Some of you might be feeling that advertising and marketing are one and the same. So yes and no. So obviously marketing could be considered as a broader concept, and selling, advertising are parts of marketing, or they are integral parts of marketing. So marketing is a much more umbrella term that we can have. So let's begin with one of the definitions that has often been given, and we will talk about some nitty-gritty of this. So the first definition that we will deal with so that we can initiate our today's discussion is marketing has often been called as a process for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customers profitably. Now, the crux out here, or the keyword out here, is customer. So, let's take a simple example of a business. Let's say we have a school or a coaching class. So, it's essentially a education business. Let's say a customer walks into a coaching class. At that time, in the front desk, you have a counselor. She is supposed to counsel the prospective candidate who comes to that coaching class, and she is supposed to guide that particular person about his or her career and convince that particular person that some of the courses of that institute are relevant for him or her. Now, suppose the counselor is unable to convince the candidate or the student, and she sees that there is a faculty member who is also present in the institute, and she requests the faculty member to come and talk to the student or talk to the parent also who has come with the student. But the faculty member says that no, I am from the academic department. This is your job. Selling is your job. I will not do any kind of marketing activity or selling activity that is beneath my dignity. So my job is to come to the institute, teach, take the class, and then go home and then solve students' doubt if at all it is needed. So typically what has happened out here, the customer has come to the institute, but the customer has not been convinced enough for him to take admission in the course, primarily because the counselor was not able to convince the customer. Now the faculty member is part of the organization, but the faculty member thinks that I am not from the marketing department. Now tomorrow, if such customers, they do not get enrolled in the coaching institute, and because of poor demand, the coaching institute is not able to pay the salaries of his staff, and even the faculty member can lose his or her job. So essentially what happens is that each and every person in the organization is dependent upon the customer and the customer's goodwill and the customer's good relationship with the organization. So one approach today is that ultimately the entire process of marketing is actually geared towards the entire process of marketing. Now we are using a keyword process. So there is a process approach to marketing. So let's call it as a process approach. So this process approach basically says what? Marketing is a process for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customers profitably. So basically the entire target, the entire fulcrum or the entire focal point of the marketing activity happens to be the customers. So if the customer is happy, then the business runs because I am able to pay the salaries to all the staff. So one way of looking at marketing is essentially to look at it as a activity which is essential to the running of the business per se. So one could say that marketing is business and business is marketing. So one way of looking at it, because if the customer is not happy or the customer has not been satisfied, then the entire reason for existence of that business is lost. Let's take another parallel example. Let's say we have a restaurant, and say the customer in the restaurant is not happy, is not satisfied. So the customer starts shouting, and he or she does not know whom to shout at because the customer is unhappy now. Now, if nobody takes responsibility in the restaurant, neither the waiter is taking responsibility for, let's say, a poor service, nor is the chef taking responsibility for the poor service, nor is the manager taking responsibility for the poor service. Okay, neither is the cashier or the administrative staff coming to the rescue of the customer. The customer is left to fend for his own on his own. So suppose the customer walks out in a huff and puff, and tomorrow the customer tells many of his or her friends that this restaurant is no good. So they might not post it on social media, but word of mouth might result in that particular restaurant losing business just because one person received very poor service at the restaurant. So in that sense, it would have been the responsibility of each and every member of that particular restaurant, whether it is the managerial staff or whether it is the waiting staff or whether it is the cooking staff. All of them should have basically gone and placated the customer or recovered the service and so on and so forth. So ultimately, marketing is not the responsibility of the marketing department alone, or marketing cannot be looked at as an activity which is basically only narrow department wise activity. In fact, it is considered as a universal discipline. It affects each and every component of the business. Okay, so to that extent, learning marketing will go a long way in your being able to really understand customers, being able to really uh, uh, run a business effectively. Because ultimately, if the customer is happy, the business is going to work. This is one way of looking at it. Okay, so the process approach we have just talked about. In fact, let's look at one of the pioneers of management. In fact, Peter Drucker is considered as one of the management gurus who has been responsible for making management as a body of knowledge that has got respect amongst other bodies of knowledge. Let's say you have sociology, you have physics, you have chemistry, you have anthropology. Similarly, management as a science owes its respectability as a body of knowledge to the great Peter Drucker. He's also called as the father of management. Now, what does Peter Drucker say about marketing? In fact, it's a very interesting point Peter Drucker has made. He says the aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well. Again, you see the customer focus. The father of management has also mentioned customer as an integral part of the marketing process. The aim of marketing is to know and understand the customer so well that the product or service fits and sells itself. You would recall Harry Potter series. Recall the Harry Potter series where J.K. Rowling, there was such demand for the next book in the series that people used to line up outside stores when a new Harry Potter book used to be released. Similarly, if you look at a superstars movies, let's say Salman Khan's movies or some big superstars movies or Shah Rukh Khan's movies, so his fans would line up outside the theater when a new movie is being released. Similarly, if iPhone of Apple is launching a new model of iPhone, you'll find people lining up for 24 hours outside the store before the launch. So sometimes, so Peter Drucker basically says that good marketing is something that makes selling redundant. मतलब बेचना नहीं पड़ता है हमको, automatically बिक जाता है product. So there is a pull effect. The customer wants that particular product. You don't have to convince the customer that this product has got these benefits, these features, these attributes. Why don't you come? I will give you one ke saath one free, etc. So the aim of marketing has been defined as something that an activity that makes selling superfluous. Superfluous means redundant, unnecessary. Zarurat nahi hai. Because I am doing marketing so well that the act of selling, which is basically a subset of the umbrella term of marketing, becomes redundant. So we are getting certain flavor of what marketing is. In fact, let me also quote another statement of Peter Drucker, which is quite relevant out here. Peter Drucker once said, marketing is so basic that it cannot be considered as a separate function. It is the whole business seen from the point of view of its final result. So ultimately जो कस्टमर मेरे रेस्टोरेंट में आया है वो कस्टमर डिलाइटेड होके सेटिस्फाइड होके घर गया है कि नहीं, उसके लिए मैनेजर को मेहनत करना पड़े, शेफ को मेहनत करना पड़े, वेटिंग स्टाफ को मेहनत करना पड़े, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड को मेहनत करना पड़े, वैले पार्किंग स्टाफ को मेहनत करना पड़े, करना चाहिए, करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज कस्टमर को बेसिकली डिलाइटेड तरीके से अगर आप नहीं सर्विस कर सकते हैं तो मैनेजमेंट एज एन और मार्केटिंग एज एन एक्टिविटी कहीं ना कहीं कम पड़ गया है. So essentially he says, I repeat, it is the whole business seen from the point of view of its final result, that is from the customer's point of view. And he continues further, business success is not determined by the producer but the customer. So producer या फैक्ट्री का मालिक कितना अच्छे तरीके से उसने गाड़ी में आया है, कितना अच्छे तरीके से उसने सूट बूट पहना है, कितने अच्छे तरीके से उसने लोगों को टाइम पे सैलरी दिया है, ये सब तो जरूरी है ही है. लेकिन अल्टीमेटली 100 बात की एक बात, इट इज इफ द कस्टमर इज अनहैप्पी योर बिजनेस विल नॉट रिमेन ओनली. फॉरगेट अबाउट योर बिजनेस ग्रोइंग. your business, the very survival of your business is going to be gone. If you look at the current coronavirus lockdown or the pandemic lockdown that we are currently going through, lots of businesses, in fact, big departmental stores in Britain like Debenham, etc., have closed down. Iconic restaurants in Khan Market in Delhi have closed down, which evokes memories of people since 1960s and 1970s. They have been institutions on their own, in their own right. With the advent of Amazon.com, etc., where people started buying books like Kindle edition of books, etc., physical bookstores like Barnes and Nobles in America and lots of iconic bookstores in many parts of India, in Calcutta, in Pune, etc. A lot of bookstores which were, for generations, people have a memory of that. They have closed down. So ultimately, customer अगर नहीं है उस business का, तो बेसिकली वो बिजनेस रहेगा नहीं, कितना भी सेंटिमेंटालिटी हम लोग अटैच करें उस बिजनेस के साथ. So ultimately, this is also a quote of Peter Drucker. So he says, ultimately, business success is not determined by the producer but by the customer. So ultimately, you'll appreciate that marketing as a discipline is a universal discipline because it affects every part of the business. And whether the business is in Australia or the business is in Ireland or the business is in Nigeria or the business is in Nepal, marketing would be required for the success or for the continued success or the growth of any business. Point number one. Point number two, how it is implemented might vary from place to place. जिस तरह से उसको practice किया जाता है, it will vary from place to place. So possibly a Mercedes store or a BMW store which is selling cars might not follow the same kind of marketing techniques that, let's say, a WagonR or a Maruti Alto will possibly follow for its strategies. But ultimately, marketing will have to be done there also, marketing will have to be done here also. So in that sense, it is a universal discipline. What aspect of it is foregrounded and what aspect of it is kept kept in the background in different circumstances, that is a matter of fine tuning. Okay, so that's one aspect. Now, so that one is the process approach. The other approach for marketing is known as the philosophy approach. Okay, so one is the process approach that we have just talked about. The other is the where marketing is seen as a philosophy. So essentially, when we see marketing as a philosophy, we will talk about evolution of marketing over the years. In fact, how earlier marketing used to be practiced by adopting a certain philosophy. So philosophy means attitude or a set of beliefs, okay, a set of assumptions as to what will work and what will not work. So the philosophies of marketing have also been undergoing a change with the evolution of time and with the marketing environment or with the macroeconomic environment. So to that extent, the philosophies of marketing have also kept pace with the rest of the economic conditions. So to that extent, marketing will require you to have a very good knowledge of. So if you look at this marketing as a field, it will borrow from economics, it will borrow from organizational behavior, it will borrow from statistics, it will borrow from various other fields, market research, etc. So marketing as a field, it will borrow from organizational behavior, it will borrow from human resources. So to that extent, it is a universal field and it is also an interdisciplinary field. It is not just a universal field discipline, it is also an interdisciplinary field. So to understand the customer, you will have to understand the mind of the customer. You'll have to understand the economics of how a customer is running his or her home. Okay, you'll have to understand something called as a product. Different types of products might have different meanings to a customer. So something called as elasticity of demand and substitutability of product. So it will have to borrow from economics. It will have to borrow from other disciplines also. To that extent, marketing is a very exciting field. It will open up a lot of your creative senses. It will allow you to move from one discipline to the other, and marketing therefore is able to traverse disciplines. Okay, Now, so therefore it allows your creativity to have an outlet. Third important point is, if you look at the process approach, so essentially it is a set of concepts, it is a set of tools, theories, practices, procedures, experiences. So essentially it is also a body of knowledge. So it is not just an activity. Marketing is not just an activity as a verb. It is also a field of study. It is a recognized field of study in which people do PhD, in which people do MPhil, okay, in which people do a lot of uh, uh, theoretical work, right? So that's why I have put here, it is a teachable and learnable body of knowledge. So there are various ways of looking at what marketing is. A, it is a philosophy. B, it is a process. And C, it is a body of knowledge. So to that extent, what marketing is, we have tried to give a brief flavor of what it is. Coming to picking up from where we have just left, customers. So we will pick up the word customer and then we will get into what exactly drives the customer. So let that be the starting point of our discussion. Another pioneer in the field of marketing whose books that you will be reading in your first semester, second semester, etc., is Philip Kotler. So Philip Kotler has done a lot of pioneering work in the field of management, and he's credited with writing a lot of books and a lot of theoretical concepts which are essential reading for most students who want to pursue a formal study of marketing. So what does Philip Kotler say about marketing as an activity? Marketing kya hai? Kotler essentially says marketing is a human activity directed at satisfying needs and wants through the exchange process. So this particular definition throws up certain keywords. One is needs and wants, and the other is exchange process. Okay. And the third, of course, is satisfying. So essentially, what does Kotler say? Kotler say that marketing is nothing but trying to satisfy human needs and wants through the exchange process. So essentially this whets our curiosity. What exactly is needs and wants? So obviously this is a concept that gets into organizational behavior or human mind or human behavior or psychology. So how does a human mind operate? Now obviously human beings have existed on this earth for n number of years, for thousands of years now. Now essentially, if you compare a human being 10,000 years back or 12,000 years back and a human being today, some of the needs of the human beings then and now are common. They had a digestive system and they had a stomach. So human beings today also, if whether you are a CEO of an organization or whether you are a small shopkeeper in an organization or whether you are a sadhu or sannyasi and running a big ashram, you will feel hungry. Even Gautam Buddha, was who tried to torture himself and tried to find nirvana, found that नहीं, भूख तो लगता है और निर्वाणा को हम लोग को भूख सेटिस्फाई करने के बाद हम लोग को करना पड़ेगा, अचीव करना पड़ेगा. So essentially there are certain needs and wants that are common to all individuals, whether they have lived 5,000 years back or whether they are living today. So needs and wants of certain needs and wants of human beings have uh, sustained over a period of time, let's call it that way. So the existence of human needs, the fact that human beings have needs is essentially a fundamental concept which is the basis of all marketing activities. So this gives us the starting point of our uh, discussion. So we are curious about what type of needs human beings have. So lots of you during your graduation subjects you must have studied something called as physiological needs and psychological needs. Physiology means bodily. this word physiology means bodily needs. So whether you are a 10-year-old boy or whether you are a 60-year-old man, whether you are a CEO of an organization or a film star, or you are a unemployed youth, you will feel hungry every day. So food is going to be an essential need for everybody. Okay, no matter who you are. So that's a physiological need. Because you've been born on this earth as a human being, you will have to eat to survive. Of course, some people might have a very good big capacity. They might have 5 parathas at one sitting, and some people might eat like a sparrow. That's another thing. But eat you will have to. So food, then of course clothing. Now people might argue that nahi, there are lots of communities which are Jarawa tribes in the Andaman Nicobar. They are staying even without clothing. They don't need clothing. But of course, when we discuss clothing, we are basically discussing it in a general sense, some kind of protection from the forces of nature. So when it is extremely cold, you would, even if you are not wearing clothing, you would basically try to take some leaves, some kind of shrubs, etc., and then you would have to cover yourself from the rain, from the sun, etc. So today, well, it is given a formal name, clothing. So essentially, when we look at modern civilization, these are some of the needs: food, clothing, and shelter. So shelter can be called as a dwelling. It could be called as a place. Even people who are living on the streets, if it is raining, they will take shelter under, the under a tree or under a, the shade of a shop, etc. So when it comes to physiological needs or bodily needs, there are certain common needs to everybody. Whether you are in Africa or whether you are in Latin America, you will all have these basic needs. So there is something called as a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Abraham Maslow in the 1960s, he came up with certain hierarchy of needs. He basically said that the physiological needs, once they are satisfied, only then human being goes for higher order needs. So higher order needs are become applicable to a human being only when his or her physiological needs are taken care of. So essentially, Maslow argued that if a person is hungry, just to take a Gautam Buddha example, once one of the disciples of Gautam Buddha, he was propagating the teachings of uh, the Buddha, and then he approached a beggar on the street, and then he talked about the various message of Gautam Buddha and then how you should live your life, etc. The beggar basically just, he pretended as if he has not heard that person. So he completely ignored him. So the disciple was quite taken aback. He thought that it is such a profound message. Then he went back to Buddha and he reported it. Lord, he is not listening to me. And it is such a spiritual message that you've given. I am totally convinced about the profundity of this message. But this person is not willing to listen to me. Then Gautam Buddha supposedly told him, did you ask that person whether he had eaten? जब तक पेट में कोई दाना नहीं है, जब तक खाना नहीं खाया हुआ है, तब तक हायर लेवल चीजें सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन करने के लिए आप बोल रहे हो उसको, दिस इज अ हायर लेवल नीड ऑफ अ ह्यूमन बीइंग. तो जब तक उसका पेट में कुछ खाना नहीं है, तब तक आप उसको बोल रहे हो कि ऋग्वेदा पढ़ो और आयुर्वेदा पढ़ो और ऑल दिस काइंड ऑफ बिग फिलोसॉफीज दैट यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. सो दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन. Similarly, so basically the higher order needs are nothing but psychological needs and sociological needs. So typically belonging and affection, wanting to belong to a group. So these days you have, somebody has made you a friend on Facebook, so you feel, you are part of the group, or WhatsApp groups are there. So some of your friends have formed a WhatsApp group and you have not been included in that group. So you feel left out. Okay. These days in the COVID times, people are not really able to, you know, achieve these kind of things. They're not able to go out for a cup of coffee with their friends and basically hang out. So this hanging out has become a problem. So belonging and affection have to be shown by via phone only these days in the COVID times. Esteem, again, people join Rotary Club, people join, membership of some kind of golf club, etc. They show that they are part of some kind of esteem. So or they buy a car which has a logo which is a foreign logo, BMW. So having a BMW car versus having a Honda City car, possibly a BMW car will also seat the same number of people that a Honda City car will seat. But then if your purpose of buying the car is not to transport people from point A to point B, but to show off to your friends or to show off to your residential society members that you have arrived in life. So essentially, the kind of need that propels you into action is the esteem need. Okay. Then you have self-actualization, the very purpose of why we are here on this world. So have we really been able to actualize or you know be able to achieve what we could achieve on this earth? So self-actualization. So there are Indian philosophy which talks about you know at a particular phase in your life you are supposed to study, then after that you are supposed to have a family, you know so from so grihastha ashram, then you go to vanaprastha ashram. That is a transition between uh, family life to spiritual life, and then of course sannyas ashram, where you are supposed to basically leave the worldly needs or the luxuries of life and basically get into a life of spirituality. Now, Abraham Maslow has basically argued that unless a person's lower order needs are satisfied, he or she does not get into the higher order life. For example, let's say in a college hostel in the final year, some of your friends have got campus placement and you have not yet got campus placement and you are still waiting for getting a job. And three of the friends who have got a campus placement, they have already got a job, they are going for a movie and they ask you to join you. Now, you are not very keen to join them because your basic needs of security has not gotten satisfied. Okay, so your safety and security needs, so basically, आपका आमदनी livelihood needs have not been taken care of. So you would not really like to go for a higher order needs. So once these needs are satisfied, only then one goes for these needs, right? So that is what has been shown by this thing. However, there are lots of people. You would wonder that they, though they don't have a job, they basically go for social service. Okay, because that gives them satisfaction. So they don't have a job, they don't have social security in their personal lives, but they go and feed the dogs in their neighborhood. Okay, they are doing a act of kindness because they feel very good spiritually. They get a lot of joy in doing so. So many a times people's lived reality, sometimes it is a black box. So understanding consumers, understanding consumer behavior sometimes becomes extremely critical for a marketer to practice his craft effectively. Anyway, so basically human needs needs can be defined as a state of deprivation. Okay, कोई ना कोई चीज आपको सेंस ऑफ डेप्रिवेशन लगता है. Suppose there is an advertisement in the newspaper and which is advertising a new model of a car. Okay, so let's say Tata, when it came up with Nexon, the model Nexon, which is basically a SUV model. Now, a person who does not have a car might also want to go in for a Nexon. सीधा सीधा फर्स्ट कार उसका स्मॉल कार ना होके उसको सीधा एसयूवी खरीदना है to announce that he has arrived in life. On the other hand, somebody else who basically has a family of 4 or 5 and they are not really accommodated very comfortably in an Alto wants to upgrade to a higher car, and he also looks up that advertisement. Now, which person takes interest in that advertisement and then follows it up further might be an area where the marketer might be interested in. So basically, what is the basic human need? The person who has an Alto car is able to go from point A to point B. In fact, 5 people can be accommodated in an Alto if you cramp this thing. Or if it's a slightly bigger car, let's say like Honda City, you will be able to accommodate, 4 or 5 people. In fact, the next one might also accommodate that many people. But then the design of that, the styling of it, the machismo of that. So possibly something else might be the need of that person. Maybe he's in the middle age or he's in the he's going through midlife crisis and he wants to have a bigger car in order to basically show that all is okay with him and then mortality is not an issue, and then the kind of stresses that he's feeling on the job is not really a worry. In fact, you will be surprised to know that Harley Davidson, etc., these kind of biker kind of this culture, most of the people who are at middle age and they have a lot of money to spend, splurge on a Harley Davidson, they become bikers because they feel that they are life is almost over, and if they do not really maximize whatever is left of it in their 40s, then it will be too late for them, and eventually they will be suffering from arthritis and other debilitating illnesses. And therefore, the target audience which buys a Harley Davidson or a target audience which buys an SUV, once you investigate into it, the marketer will basically have to engage into a very detailed discussion into what is human psychology. And therefore, understanding needs and wants is a very basic discussion in the marketing arena. Okay, coming to a concept known as want. So we have just discussed what is need. Just to broaden the discussion further or to deepen the discussion further, let's distinguish between need and want. So a lot of people say, I want ice cream. Mommy, I want ice cream. So mommy says, no beta, ice cream is not healthy, you have chapati. So the child is insisting that he wants ice cream only. So basically mommy is interpreting it as the child is hungry, but the child is not hungry. The child wants to basically indulge in some kind of uh, tasty culinary delight. But the mummy is interpreting it as that child is hungry. So mummy is thinking that it is a need of the child. So basically, let's look at need and want from that perspective. So in the slide also you have a lot of points that I have mentioned. Okay. So now sitting in Starbucks and sipping a coffee which costs 200 rupees, 300 rupees. If you just take your middle-aged relative or a elderly relative से 50s में या 60s में अगर किसी को आप स्टारबक्स में लेके जाते हैं and then after having a cold coffee out there which they enjoy a lot, but if you talk about the bill, how much was the bill, and then they hear that one coffee has cost at least 300 to 400 rupees and with taxes even more, so they will have a mini heart attack because they are thirsty. There is a fundamental need that they were thirsty after shopping, मॉल में शॉपिंग किया और उनको भूख लगी है, प्यास लगी है, तो वो लोग खाने पीने के लिए तैयार है. दैट्स अ फंडामेंटल नीड, बट they don't necessarily want a Starbucks coffee. So possibly Starbucks coffee possibly यहाँ पे आएगा, will be listed here. But if I am thirsty and I want to basically quench my thirst, if I am thirsty and I want to quench my thirst, that will basically come in the form of basically a basic fundamental need. So basically, if I am tired and if I am looking for water, so basically I am trying to quench my thirst. But if I am trying to have mineral water, I only want mineral water. So want is the form taken by human needs as they are shaped by culture. Because बचपन से आपको कहा गया है कि इंडिया के अंदर कहीं से भी पानी पीने से आपको डेली वैली हो जाएगा और आपको काफी सावधान रहना है. तो a person who comes from abroad on his annual vacation in December along with his family, you'll find that foreigners, they will all carry, or NRIs also, they will all carry their own mineral water bottle. They will not have water from yahan wahan se. So if they go to a restaurant and then in India the person waiter asks you sada ki mineral water. Okay, so within his question also there is a kind of differentiation कि सादा पानी मतलब it is not good enough possibly. But then a lot of people would say that एक्वागार्ड का पानी है क्या? हाँ, वो बोलता है एक्वागार्ड का पानी है. Then he says that okay ठीक है, एक्वागार्ड का पानी तो घर में भी पीते हैं हम लोग. तो for some people it might be okay, but for some other person who is shaped, he must have read some kind of travel reports where a lot of people they have had a very bad case of diarrhea and they have landed up in hospital after going to India. Then it is shaped by their previous reading or their previous experiences, or they have read on a certain kind of travel sites, okay, where India के अंदर ये precaution लेना चाहिए. So they want only mineral water. So if suppose they go to a restaurant and that restaurant does not serve mineral water, then they will walk out of that restaurant. That restaurant will possibly lose business of that particular customer. So needs are more fundamental in nature, and a marketer cannot create a need. A need is there. Hunger, thirst, ठंड लग रहा है, तो ठंड लगना, गर्मी लगना, okay, the need for love is there within human beings. But then Archie's का card खरीद के love दिखाना, that is basically how the need is manifested in terms of wants. So wants are basically how needs are manifested. Okay. So as it is obvious, needs are few: food, clothing, shelter, etc. But wants are many. Okay. So wants are shaped by what is known as socialization. A person's how he has lived his life in his childhood, school, family, friend circle, religious groups, mass media, etc. So the media basically tells you that जब तक आपने ये वाला ब्रांड का डिओ नहीं लगाया तब तक आप कूल नहीं हो, तब तक you will not be able to attract attractive friends from the opposite sex. So possibly mass media से अगर आपका shaped है, so it is you are not using that particular deo for hygiene purposes to keep the fungus out or to get rid of sweat or fungus and to smell good. Smell good not for hygienic purposes but smell good so that the other person basically will be attracted to you. So possibly lots of people might simply use talcum powder for summers. Some people might use deodorant, some people might use an expensive brand of deodorant, some people's deodorant brands might run into the thousands of rupees, some people might look for sasta sundar tikau deodorant brand, and so on and so forth. So if you go to supermarket and you go to the deodorant section, you'll find at least 25 different types of brands that have been displayed out there. Now, somebody might argue, somebody who's an environmentalist might argue that why do we need so many deodorant brands? What is the need for it? When we see so many different types of shampoos, why do we need so many different types of brands? So much of plastics are being consumed in packaging. Many of these are non-biodegradable, non-recyclable. So basically, as Gandhiji said, greed versus need. So there is enough for every man's need, but there is not enough for every man's greed. So basically needs are very fundamental in nature. मुझे भूख लगा है, मुझे चपाती चाहिए. Now to take a slightly more simple example, जैसे let's take an example of food. Okay, somebody is okay with consuming a pizza worth 400 rupees. Okay, so pizza versus chapati. Let's say a person considering chapati versus pizza. Now, the pizza is priced at say 400 rupees, and a chapati, suppose he goes to a restaurant, is priced at rupees 100 per chapati. Now, 4 chapatis cost 400 rupees. Suppose 4 chapatis together gives you as much nutrition as one pizza does. 4 chapatis put together gives you as much nutrition as one pizza does. That means other things remaining constant, a chapati and pizza, the person should be neutral about it. But let's say he's an Indian who's been eating chapati throughout his life in his house. Every day in the morning, mummy gives chapati with sabzi. That Indian, when he goes to a restaurant, might be okay ordering a pizza for 400 rupees because pizza रोज घर पे नहीं बनता है, उसके लिए नॉवेल्टी है पिज्जा खाना 400 रुपीज में. लेकिन वही बंदा अगर रेस्टोरेंट में जाके अगर चपाती का रेट देखता है 100 रुपीज पर चपाती, he might eat 4 chapatis and get the same kind of utility in terms of पेट भरना what one pizza would have given him, but he might not consume the chapatis because ज्यादा expensive है चपाती. चपाती उसके लिए ज्यादा एक्सपेंसिव है लेकिन पिज्जा उसके लिए ओके है. Pizza is okay for him. So it is very difficult to understand the human needs and wants. So more analysis has to be done. In fact, a lot of people these days, they are doing data mining. So who my customer is, when has he bought, what he has bought, in his shopping cart, what are the items that he has got. So along with let's say this particular brand of deodorant, he has bought this particular brand of atta and this particular brand of shampoo. So a person of this particular income category may prefer this particular brand of atta and this particular brand of shampoo, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of after the event analysis, what we call as post facto analysis, also happening these days. Why people buy, what they buy, and therefore the entire branch of consumer behavior becomes an interesting uh, field to explore. Okay, so coming to continuation of this particular discussion, need versus want versus demand. In fact, during the lockdown, you must have seen lots of stores have closed down. There is no demand for lots of goods and services any longer. So certain shops, they are not seeing any walk-ins. In fact, even before the lockdown, lots of people were buying online the same things that they were buying earlier in physical stores. Let's say stores like Big Bazaar, stores like West Side, I'm sorry, they saw a lot of reduced footfalls because of the popularity of many of these Chinese uh, uh, B2C outlets, okay, which were essentially selling the similar kind of products at a much reduced price. So people are now buying shoes, people are buying clothes also online. So the demand for lots of physical stores, the customers of physical stores, they do not see enough footfalls. So what do we say? We say that the demand for certain kinds of goods and services has fallen. So what do we mean when we say demand? Need and want we have just seen. So basically, how do we distinguish between need, want versus demand? So going to the very basic or the first line in every economics books. Economics is a study of unlimited needs and wants but limited resources. इंसान को सब कुछ चाहिए, अगर उसके पास अनगिनत पैसा होता, if a person had a limitless bank balance, he or she would have purchased everything under the sun. But unfortunately, everybody has limited resources. Even the richest man in India would have limited resources. Even the richest man in China would have limited resources. Of course, it is a lot of zeros you put after the one, but then it is still going to end, right? So, given that everybody has limited resources, so obviously the one will have to ration, one will have to choose what to purchase with the limited resources. That is where economics comes into the picture. So demand, etc., these are all concepts that we study in microeconomics, so which has a huge role to play in uh, estimating the size of the market, which has a huge role to play in understanding as to why people buy, when people buy, okay, and so on and so forth. So ultimately, when you see what people essentially buy bundles of benefits. When people buy, so when we say people have bought a pizza or somebody has bought a pizza, so essentially he has bought a bundle of benefit. He has bought something that possibly is not made at his house on a regular basis, and he's gone to for an outing, and it's a once he orders a pizza, it is not very awkward to eat. He doesn't have to dirty his hands. He gets to eat something that is a novelty for him, and so on and so forth. So essentially, he is willing to shell out 400 rupees for that particular 6-inch or 9-inch pizza. So once you delve deeper or ask that particular person through a market research survey, why have you ordered this pizza which is costing you 400 rupees? You could have gone to another restaurant in which you could have ordered an entire meal at Naivedyam at say 150 rupees, where you would have got sambar, you would have got rice, you would have got sabzi, you would have got sweet, and you would have got so many other things. It's a very nutritious meal also. It's much more healthy than a pizza. So essentially, at that particular point of time, why he has ordered the pizza and why he has been willing to shell out 400 rupees, whereas for 100 rupees chapati, he is not going to shell out the money, or possibly even 50 rupees per chapati, he will not shell out the money. So basically, a product, something that you offer to the customer, is seen as a bundle of benefits. So how do human beings rationalize? Human beings, given their wants and their resources, people choose the product with the benefits that add up to the most satisfaction. So this is a new term that we are introducing, satisfaction, khushi. So product matlab bundle of benefit, then satisfaction, then given their wants and resources, etc. So all of this helps us to arrive at the definition of what is demand. So when backed by purchasing power, मुझे आइसक्रीम चाहिए लेकिन मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है, तो मैं आइसक्रीम के दुकान के सामने गया और मैं देख रहा था आइसक्रीम वाले को, आइसक्रीम वाला मुझे देख रहा था, लेकिन बेसिकली क्या हुआ, ट्रांजैक्शन नहीं हुआ क्योंकि मेरे पास पैसा नहीं था, मेरे पास वांट था, मैं चाहता था आइसक्रीम खाना, लेकिन मेरे पास परचेजिंग पावर नहीं था. ऑफ कोर्स मैं छीन के चला जा सकता हूं, आई कैन रॉब इट, आई कैन स्टील इट, आई कैन थ्रेटन द आइसक्रीम वाला, अगर तुम मुझे आइसक्रीम नहीं दोगे तो मैं तुम्हारे आइसक्रीम के दुकान में पत्थर मार दूंगा और कांच तोड़ दूंगा. कोवर्शन कर सकते हैं आप, स्टीलिंग भी कर सकते हैं, बेगिंग भी कर सकते हैं, दे दो ना मुझे आइसक्रीम, दे दो ना प्लीज प्लीज, बहुत भूख लगी है, एटसेट्रा. लेकिन ये सब इलीगल है, कोवर्शन, बेगिंग एटसेट्रा. सो ऑब्वियसली व्हाट इज लीगल, अगर आपके पास परचेजिंग पावर है, then want can become demand. So as far as the owner of that particular ice cream store is concerned, उसका उस दिन के अंदर जो इनकम हुआ या अर्निंग्स हुआ, आपके वजह से कोई अर्निंग्स नहीं हुआ क्योंकि आपके पास कोई परचेजिंग पावर नहीं था. So essentially the definition that emerges is, for demand, the definition that emerges is as follows: when needs and wants are supported by purchasing power, they become demands. When needs and wants are supported by purchasing power, they become demand. So I have the money to buy a car. I have 10 lakhs rupees sitting in my bank account, but I don't want to buy a car. So when my friend says, अरे टाटा नेक्सॉन का नया मॉडल आ गया है, डिस्काउंट पे वो लोग बेच रहे हैं लॉकडाउन के बाद, ओके 8 लाख में बेच रहे हैं, क्लियरेंस सेल कर रहे हैं, चल हम लोग खरीद के लाते हैं. आप बोलते हैं नहीं मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मैं मेट्रो से ऊपर नीचे जाता हूँ, अप डाउन करता हूँ, मुझे पार्किंग का झमेला नहीं चाहिए, मुझे इतना पेट्रोल पे खर्च नहीं करना है, एंड सो आई हैव परचेजिंग पावर बट आई डोंट हैव intention to buy, I don't want a car. On the other hand, somebody else might want to buy a Tata Nexon very badly because he wants to show off to his friends and he wants to show off his machismo and he wants to show off to his neighbors that he has arrived in life, but he doesn't have money. Okay, because of the lockdown, maybe his salary has also reduced by 10% or 15% till further notice. So he wants to buy. Whenever an advertisement of Nexon comes, he looks it up, but he is not going to constitute demand for that particular product. So basically you can look at demand as a set of potential and existing customers of that particular product. So demand can be looked as a set of existing and potential uh, customers. So who's a customer? A customer is somebody who wants that particular thing and his want is also backed up by purchasing power. Now the $1,000,000 question is, can marketer create need? मार्केटर क्या नीड क्रिएट कर सकता है कि नीड पहले से ही होता है? We have just seen the concept of need is a very basic concept. इंसान को at a very visceral level or at a very basic level need महसूस होता है. Thirst, hunger, need for security, safety, etc. So these are all very visceral qualities or very basic qualities. Marketer cannot create need. Marketer is not God. What marketer can do on the other hand is, the marketer can influence wants. So he can show a very attractive ad of ice cream in which you have taken a very popular model or a popular sports star whom you idolize, and that particular sports star says that ये वाला आइसक्रीम तो दुनिया में बेस्ट आइसक्रीम है और इतना सस्ता और इतना डिस्काउंट पे ये मिल रहा है, तो मैं तो हमेशा यही आइसक्रीम खाता हूँ. So basically, what has he done? The using various influencers, various it is whether it is brand ambassador these days on YouTube, there are influencers who are making millions of rupees. Okay, uh, influencing people, whether it's cosmetics or other kind of products. Okay, so marketers क्या करते हैं? Along with other influencers, what they do, they try to influence wants. Marketers can also influence demand by saying that आपको अगर ये पर्टिकुलर बाइक खरीदना है, बुलेट खरीदना है, बुलेट आपको बहुत अच्छा ऑफर मिल रहा है और आपको हम लोग फाइनेंस भी करा देंगे. वी विल आल्सो गिव यू हायर परचेजिंग एंड फाइनेंस ऑप्शंस करवा देंगे. So they can influence demand. Even if you don't have the money right now, they will say that you can pay it in easy installments. So by making the product appropriate, in fact, a lot of Korean companies, they made the product appropriate to the Indian tastes, and they sold washing machines and fridge, etc., which was also affordable to the Indian public, as well as the product design was such that the washing that was involved was gentle washing, and it did not really uh, uh, tear the clothes, okay, as possibly a heavy duty washing machine like Whirlpools or Bosch would have done. So in the late 90s and the early 2000s, the entire market was captured by the LGs and the Samsungs, the durable goods market. So marketers can also influence demand. They in fact also introduce what is called as sales promotion offers, made it very attractive. During Diwali, they used to have a coconut, and then if you break a coconut, you will get an assured gift if you buy a LG washing machine or a Samsung washing machine. So what they do is to target consumers, marketers can influence demand. But whether you want to wash clothes or whether you don't want to wash clothes, that is a very basic need. So not wanting to have dirty clothes is a very basic need. But what do you do to wash those dirty clothes? Do you take a rin, or do you take a wheel, or do you take a sunlight, or do you take a tide, and do you wash it in a washing machine, or do you wash it manually? Now these are things that possibly is a matter of socialization and a matter of other aspects. So basically marketers will have to understand the consumers needs and wants, and using that they can influence the wants using mass media, and they can influence the demand, but consumers can't create demands. So basically the very important aspect of today's discussion is that needs pre-exist marketers. Marketing का बॉडी ऑफ नॉलेज होने से पहले, शुरू होने से पहले भी नीड्स थे इंसान के. Human beings had needs even before marketing as a subject was introduced, or it got invented, right? इंसान पहले भी खाना खाते थे, मार्केटिंग की किताबें लिखने से पहले. इंसान को पहले भी ठंड लगता था, उसको कपड़ों की जरूरत पड़ती थी मार्केटिंग की किताब लिखने से पहले, राइट? सो मार्केटिंग क्या करता है? उस बॉडी ऑफ नॉलेज को फॉर्मलाइज करता है, स्ट्रक्चर करता है एंड अंडरस्टैंडेबल बना देता है, ताकि आप उसको यूज करके इस पर्टिकुलर एक्टिविटी को स्ट्रक्चर्ड तरीके से कर सको, राइट? The next point of the discussion is basically value and satisfaction. So very, very important. In fact, briefly we had mentioned the word satisfaction. So the purpose of the marketer is basically to make the customer satisfied, right? And often it is said that the consumer's mind is a black box. Consumer क्यों एक particular product पसंद करता है और दूसरा product पसंद नहीं करता है? तो a particular film, why does it work, and why does another film of the same actor does not work? Okay, or whether it is a म्यूजिक एल्बम, किसी एक पर्टिकुलर पर्सन का, अरिजीत सिंह का एक पर्टिकुलर सॉन्ग बहुत हिट होता है, दूसरा सॉन्ग इतना हिट नहीं होता है, जबकि सेम गायक ने गाया, सेम म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर था और सेम फिल्म में वो ये हुआ. सो कंज्यूमर्स ऑफन मेक buying choices based on their perceptions of, so it's a subjective process. The consumer's mind is a black box, so it's all about perception. So what appeals to Peter might not appeal to Paul. Okay, so I might go to a 5-star restaurant and I might be very impressed with the decor and the service and the kind of food,
But a person who has been eating in five-star restaurants for n number of years in his life and he goes to another five-star restaurant, he would expect a much higher level of service to be impressed by that five-star restaurant. But I, who has never visited a five-star restaurant, might find it wow, फाइव स्टार रेस्टोरेंट तो मतलब मजा आ गया, ऐसा भी होता है, मैं तो स्वर्ग में आ गया, right? So it is about your expectations that you have already built up in your mind and your actual experiences. So if your expectations are at a level of 7 out of 10 and your actual experience was only 5 out of 10, then you have been dissatisfied by that experience. If your expectation was 7 out of 10 and the actual experience was 9 out of 10, then you have been delighted. If your expectation was 7 out of 10 and your actual service was also 7 out of 10, then you have been satisfied. So the concept of satisfaction, the concept of dissatisfaction, and the concept of delight is also a very, very essential aspect that marketers have to study in order to understand their consumer or their customer. Now, the interesting thing about this discussion is that unfortunately every product involves a cost. So resources are limited. So let's not forget that. Resources are limited. So I am hungry. I want to eat a ice cream. I can go to a five-star restaurant and order an ice cream. And I can go to the neighborhood ice cream wala who is standing outside my house and I can order an ice cream. But suppose I am taking a very special person on a date, I would possibly not mind spending on a five-star restaurant and treating that person to a wonderful dessert, because at that particular point of time the kind of perception that she has of me at that particular juncture is more important to me than the cost of the product. So again, occasion to occasion, the same person might behave in a different manner. So what is value or satisfaction to a person? Let's say you must have seen lots of these software companies taking their executives on a lunch on a weekday in various Sigri or mainland China, etc. They treat them to a buffet lunch. So obviously the company treats them, and say individually if that person were to go with his family and per head it was 1,000 rupees per meal or 1,200 rupees per meal, and four people are going to basically eat there. So he or she might not spend 5,000 rupees on a meal if given a choice individually. So if as an individual or as a family, if there is an outing, that person might not visit that. But as part of the company, he basically completely goes berserk on the buffet. So he loves the buffet, but possibly he does not love it so much that he considers it worthy of spending 5,000 rupees of his own hard-earned money. So possibly that same product might have different value to him on one occasion, and the same product can have a different value to that person on a different occasion. So which basically brings us to the concept of value. And so basically the customer ends up choosing the product that gives the most benefit for the rupee, which is basically a very important concept in marketing known as value for money. So I don't see a value for money in taking my family to an outing and spending 5,000 rupees on a buffet meal. However, if suppose a very important delegation is coming from abroad and suppose crores of rupees of contract are at stake, then I might take 5 people of that particular company for an entire week to that particular restaurant and feed them. So I might spend 50,000 rupees in 5 days on food. I'm sorry, because there is some benefit that I perceive at the end of the day. So basically that is the concept of value and satisfaction, which also has to be made part of our definition of marketing somewhere or the other. Okay, so we are storing that information in our head. So basically one was the concept of need, want, demand, value, satisfaction, etc. And the second very critical aspect of the discussion is exchange. This is also a very fundamental aspect of the concept of marketing. If you recall, in the right at the beginning, we had uh, taken a definition in which uh, needs and wants and exchange were two key components of the definition. So exchange means, what is exchange? Give and take. So there is a give and there is a take. So what do you give and what do you take? So people give up something to receive something they would rather have. So you have to give up something in order to receive something. Usually the thing that people give up is valuable to them. Now, in the earlier days, there used to be barter transactions. Like, for example, there is a doctor and there is a professor. The professor teaches at a university. The doctor's son is soon going to pass out of his 12th standard and he might qualify to take admission in that university. If he does not qualify, if he doesn't have enough marks, possibly the doctor feels that the professor might help his son to get admission in the university. So today, the doctor is building very good relations with the professor because he knows that 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, he might need the contacts of the professor to get his son admitted into a college. On the other hand, the doctor, when he takes patients for checkup, he charges say 1,000 rupees per patient. But this particular professor, when he calls him up these days, he does not charge any money. He gives prescriptions free of cost through WhatsApp. So what is happening out here? There is a exchange that is happening. No money is involved. No money is involved, but exchange is happening. So the doctor is giving medical services to the professor, and the doctor is expecting that the professor will give some kind of favor to the doctor at a later point of time. So this is service to service transaction happening. It could also be a service to product transaction. Okay. A lawyer might make a will for a person who is, let's say, a farmer, and the farmer is basically giving him some kind of supplies. Monthly supplies of vegetables is being sent to the lawyer's house, and the lawyer is basically preparing some kind of legal documents for him for basically sale deed of his particular piece of land. So here you have a product and service being exchanged. You can also have product and product being exchanged. So you can have a farmer exchanging his products for a milk from a milkman. So a milkman gives 10 liters or 10 liters of milk to a farmer, and the farmer gives 5 kg of vegetables to him in return, and no money has been exchanged. So essentially, exchange is a very basic concept of marketing. So unless exchange happens, marketing cannot happen, right? Of course, apart from exchange, there are other ways of obtaining a desired object also. आपको अगर कोई object बहुत desperately चाहिए, like we took the example of ice cream. So you can prepare an ice cream at home. आप YouTube में वीडियो देख सकते हैं और घर पे आइसक्रीम मशीन लाके आप खुद बना सकते हैं. आप आपका फ्रेंड आइसक्रीम खा रहा है, आप बोल सकते हैं यार मुझे थोड़ा एक बाइट दे दे आइसक्रीम का. बेगिंग कर सकते हैं. या दुकानदार को बेगिंग नहीं कर सकते, दुकानदार पॉसिबली एंटरटेन नहीं करेगा आपको. कोवर्शन कर सकते हैं, अगर तूने मुझे आइसक्रीम नहीं दिया तो मैं कुछ थ्रेट देके ही कर सकते हैं. सो पॉसिबली these two, begging and coercion, possibly is not considered legal. So this is out of the question. So these are out of the question. Achha. So now it is self-production versus exchange. So when did the concept of exchange come about? At one point of time, people used to produce all the things that they needed. They used to produce on their own. So मेरा vegetables जरूरत पड़ता है, I cultivate vegetables on a piece of land. अगर मुझे pots and pans की जरूरत पड़ती है, I produce my own pottery. अगर मुझे haircut की जरूरत पड़ती है, I give myself a haircut or I give somebody else a haircut. So self production is one way of subsisting. The other is basically let somebody produce only pots and pans, let somebody produce only grains, and whatever surplus he has, we will exchange with each other, so that I can specialize in something that I am good at. So the concept of specialization, the concept of trade that you will study in trade theories, we will also talk about these aspects. But to remember, important point is a medium of exchange is a basic concept that we will have to study further. So self-production versus exchange process. As we have just discussed, self exchange allows a society to produce much more than it would with any alternate system. If you recall the industrial revolution, the invention of the IC engine or the internal combustion engine allowed people to produce much more than they needed for their day-to-day use. So England was able to produce enough not just for England's needs but also for some surplus that they could market with other people or they could sell to other people. So that's how the concept of mercantilism started, the concept of search for new colonies started, new markets started, and so on and so forth. So we'll discuss about the historical aspects and the evolution of various styles of marketing over a period of time. So basically the keyword is surplus. So it is in the exchange process that marketing as an activity takes root. So you see the conversation between these two people. So this person says, I can trade 10 hours of plumbing per month if you supply me with 2 liters of milk per day. Exchange of goods and services with goods and services. So this was the concept of barter. So it is a kind of exchange. Money was not always there in the system. In fact, money is a very convenient thing because इसको basically रोज इसको दूध लेके जाना पड़ेगा. But कल को इसका plumbing service चाहिए. If this person wants his plumbing services, then she can just give him money which she can carry in her pocket. So it is convenient to carry money rather than carry milk. And therefore, if you have a kind of standard that you produce that 1 liter of milk, if it is say 1 rupee, and 3 visits of plumbing is equal to 1 rupee, so 1 liter of milk के अंदर 3 बार plumbing का service मुझे मिलना चाहिए. So basically, you can have money also as a medium of exchange, which was a later day invention. Some of the conditions that are necessary for exchange to take place: presence of at least 2 parties should be there. Each must have something of value to give the other party. They are able to communicate. That means there is no coercion happening out here. Each party is free to accept or reject the other's offer. You can't hold a gun to somebody and say that no valid exchange has happened. Each party must want to deal with. So basically the last 2 points basically talk about lack of coercion. कोई coercion नहीं होना चाहिए, कोई जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं होनी चाहिए, and something of value to the other party. Okay, so if you see the example of the professor and the doctor, both of them have something of value for each other and therefore exchange happens. Okay, in that case the transaction has not happened but some kind of relationship has definitely developed. So which brings us to the concept of transactions and relationships. So in fact transaction is the basic unit of marketing. So marketing हुआ मतलब क्या हुआ, एक ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ. तो एक स्टूडेंट ने कोचिंग क्लास के अंदर 50,000 रुपए दे के एनरोल किया कोर्स के लिए. सो द सेंटर मैनेजर विल आस्क द काउंसलर आज कितना धंधा हुआ. सो शी विल से सर आज 50,000 रुपए का एक एनरोलमेंट हुआ. दैट मीन्स एक ट्रांजैक्शन हुआ. एक्सचेंजेस बहुत सारे हुए, एग्जिस्टिंग या पोटेंशियल कस्टमर्स के साथ बहुत सारे कॉन्वर्सेशंस किए. आप क्यों नहीं एनरोल होते हैं, आप एनरोल होंगे तो हम लोग आपको डिस्काउंट देंगे, आप ये करिए वो करिए. वो एक्सचेंजेस थे लेकिन ट्रांजैक्शन एक ही हुआ. So what the marketer is basically interested in is transactions. So transaction can be called as the unit of measurement of marketing. So transaction marketing is part of the larger idea of relationship marketing. So basically कहते हैं लोग कि अगर आप अच्छा relationship build करते हैं तो profitable transactions will follow. So अगर the doctor and the professor maintain very good relations तो over a period of lifetime के ऊपर मतलब बहुत सारे अच्छे transactions होंगे. Suppose कभी प्रोफेसर कभी घूमने गए डॉक्टर के जो शहर में, तो उनको होटल में ना रुकवा के उनके घर में रुकवा देंगे, उनको अच्छे अच्छे जगह पे लेके जाएंगे, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. सो दिस lots of profitable transactions will follow over the lifetime of that particular relationship if you are able to maintain good relationships. So which brings us to the concept of what is a market. Market is a set of actual and potential buyers of a product. We have defined it earlier. So earlier it would be the self-sufficiency model, सब कुछ आप खुद ही कर रहे हो. लेकिन later on it will be a decentralized exchange process where each of them is making visits to the other for exchanging it. But for one transaction, too many exchanges have to be made. And in a centralized kind of model, somebody locates himself in the center of the village or center of the city, and everybody, the farmer, goes to the market and exchanges a surplus with the marketeer or the person who sits in the mandi, and whatever surplus of the other people that the farmer needs, he takes it from the marketer directly. So basically, in one transaction, the farmer is able to get many exchanges which he would have otherwise have got with decentralized exchange. So essentially, there are various types of markets: labor market, money market, stock market, etc. We will talk about this at a later stage. So in a sense, marketing involves working with markets to actualize potential exchanges and to satisfy human needs and wants. So we have come back to the definition in a roundabout manner. And finally, just to wrap up what we have discussed today. So we have discussed that needs basically are very essential to a human being. Marketer can influence wants and demand. Using that, the marketer can design bundles of benefit, which is called as product. These bundles on benefits, they provide value and satisfaction to the customer, and through exchanges, transactions, and relationships. If value and satisfaction is happening on a continuous basis, then a relationship will develop. So you will basically keep going to the same barber, you will keep going to the same grocery shop, you will keep going to the same chartered accountant, you will keep going to the same doctor. So these relationships will essentially, so basically, this constitute a market. And this again, in fact, cyclical process, this again gives rise to needs, wants, and demand. So during these COVID times, you will find that certain markets have basically got destroyed and new markets are coming up. Everybody is working at home, so people are buying lots of hardware and software that they need to work from home. So newer markets keep developing, and again the cycle continues. Okay. So essentially, to wrap up the entire discussion, marketing, when it is seen as a process, we will see marketing as a philosophy at a later date. As a process, when it is seen, it is a social and managerial process by which individuals and groups obtain what they need and want. We have seen these two keywords through creating and exchanging products of value with others. Creating and exchanging products of value with others, which basically wraps up the entire discussion that we've had as to what marketing is. So today we have discussed what marketing is as a activity or as a process. In the next discussion that we have, we will discuss what marketing is as a philosophy and how it has evolved over the years. Okay. So thank you for your attention. All the best.